in this video, I'm just going to give you a quick 5 tips that I think are really useful for making sure that you have a productive day and that you get the most important things done. So the first thing I would say is make a list of everything that you have to do today and then pick out the priority. So that's the absolute game changer thing that you need to get done today, or is going to make the most amount of difference to you if you get it done. So that is your priority. So write that down as your priority and then do that first. Don't do anything else. Don't check your email, don't go on WhatsApp, don't do anything else until that priority is done. It might only take you 10 minutes, it might take you 2 hours, it doesn't matter. Do that priority first. Then, once you've got the priority out of the way, you can revisit your to-do list and go back and then look at your calendar and schedule everything else in. So start at the most important areas or those things that are going to be done together. So if you're time batching, you might do all your phone calls together and then all your emails or whatever, however your day's structured. You might have some meetings in there, but basically go through your calendar for the day and schedule in when you're going to do certain things, and also schedule in some breaks for yourself, just so that you're not working continuously back to back for hours on end, and that you give yourself some natural rest. So go back through your to-do list, look at your calendar, work out what else you need to fit in and where it's going to go. If you've gone through that process and then you find that you haven't got enough time for everything, go back through your to-do list and see, is there anything else that you can defer to another day or another time? Or is there anything you can delegate to someone else in the team that needs to be if it needs to be done today, but you don't necessarily have the capacity to do that? And one of the good tips of doing this is the Eisenhower matrix, which I'll link to a separate video that I've done on that before, but just helps you to work out what's urgent, what's important, and what needs to be done. Also look on your to-do list. Is there anything else that basically just doesn't need to be done at all? It's either a nice to do or, that the time's passed on it, it's no longer time relevant. So just look, is there anything else that you can absolutely stop doing that will just take another thing off your to-do list? So hopefully by scheduling everything and then deferring, delegating and stopping doing everything else, then you'll have a manageable workload for today. The third thing, which is probably the most hard the hardest thing for us to do really, is about managing distractions. And I found this even more working from home, because not only is there distractions of the home, so your washing machine finishing or the door going, but there's also people WhatsApping you, Slack, Teams messaging, email. It just feels like there's a constant bombardment all the time of people who are trying to get your attention. So what I'd say is manage those distractions. So quite often I will switch off all of those communications apart from text, so that if something's super, super urgent, and in reality, nothing I deal with is that urgent, but people can get hold of me through my phone, but I turn off everything else just so I'm not distracted by the constant pinging coming in. I'm really bad that if as soon as an email comes in, I need to read it, even if it's not that important, but every time you do that, it micro distracts you from what you're working on and just is a bit of a time suck. So what I tend to do now is manage those distractions and turn off all my notifications, all my other apps, and just focus on what I need to do from that to-do list. The fourth thing I try and do is not to rush into any of the tasks. So sometimes, especially when we've got a long to-do list, there's a real temptation to do everything really quickly and to try and rush through it. But that will either lead to mistakes or just make you feel quite hurried and quite rushed. So what I try and do is relax into the to-do list and trying to get into flow state, where it takes as long as it takes, and I just focus on what I have to do for the next task, not the other 6 or 7 things that are still on my to-do list. So just treating everything as you go and just focusing on it rather than worrying about everything else that's going on or that you need to think about. And finally, and related to that, what I do is I keep a running distractions list. So every time a thought pops into my head that's something I need to do, I'll just write it down and just get back to what I'm doing. So it's a bit like meditation, where they say you should just be aware of your thoughts but not pay them any heed. And it's the same idea really, because basically I know that it will keep popping into my head until I've dealt with it, but by writing it down, I'll know I'll revisit it at some point in the future, and I don't have to worry about it quite now. And I also do that when, I don't know if you've ever done this, but you think, oh, I'll just Google that, and then it sends you off and think. I also write down a list of the things that I want to Google or articles I want to read. If something's sparked from a piece of work that I'm doing and I think, oh, it would be useful to know about something else, again, I just write that down rather than doing it at the time, because I find that will then send you off in a a rabbit hole of the internet or something else, and you just get distracted by all these other things and you never actually finish the original task. So by keeping that running list of all the distractions or the thoughts that you have, just mean that they get out of your head and allow you to get back to what you're focusing on and then get you back into that flow state. So those are my 5 top tips for a productive day, mainly about establishing what's the key priority that I need to get done, and then everything else is just managing time and distractions so that you get the core focus of what you need to do. What I try and do now is focus on doing 6 hours of work a day, rather than stretching it out over 8 and 10. And the way that I've been able to do that is by kind of eliminating some of those distractions, particularly that distraction list I found is really helpful. And rather than getting sucked into like just responding to emails or just responding to messages, because I can find that sometimes like an hour will go past and I'm just dealing with other people's priorities, which is all emails are, rather than like focusing on what's most important for me. And then I end up leaving my most important work to the end of the day when I'm a bit more tired and a bit more jaded, and I feel like a little bit resentful that I've kind of wasted a lot of time in the middle of the day, like not necessarily procrastinating, but just like dealing with other things as they come in. Whereas I do it the other way around and get my most important work done first, and then the rest of the day can be dealt with these other things. I find that really helpful, as I have like batching my emails. So I just now will look at them at certain points during the day, rather than just being on email all day and just responding to stuff as it comes in. I found that is good for a couple of reasons. Firstly, sometimes I'll be copied into an email chain, and by the time I get to it, it's already been resolved or someone else has already dealt with it, which means it's one less thing for me to do. But also it just means that I'm more efficient and I can respond to many more emails in an hour than I can if I spend my whole day doing it. So it might sound a bit weird, but that kind of works for me. So I'd love to hear from you about what your productive tips are and what's helped you in your working day to get more done. So I'm Liz, and on my channel here we talk about things that are going to give you more confidence to navigate your career, and the tips, tricks and hacks that I've learned during my 20-year career in corporate services to help you avoid some of the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully give you more confidence to move through your career. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.